coming. So, Life Stages, or it's actually had a couple of different names. True Stories, Life Stages, Portrait with Words. I'm a faculty member at Otis College of Art and Design, and these are all art students. They're design students, fine arts, digital media, fashion design, all sorts of incredible animation. And so they interview in groups 3 people in your community, and they actually record the interviews and transcribe word for word. So the words that you're going to hear from the storyteller are direct. And what we do is we have actors who are portraying you, and we have these wonderful students who are narrating, basically, and they actually were sort of replicating the actual interview for you in a way. So it's a beautiful project. I love it. It's always an amazing process to watch, and I know that you will enjoy it too.
Hello, my name is Rosina, and I came together with my peers Carlos, Tiffany, and Kohan to learn from a different perspective of the history that we learned in school. Before we went to the Senior Center to interview Ms. Davis, my peers and I were really nervous, but also really looked forward to getting to know Ms. Davis. We were given a short introduction about the seniors that we will be interviewing, and what caught my attention the most was her high values on education.
Hi, my name is Kohan. When I first heard about interviewing seniors at the senior home, I didn't know what to expect. But after interviewing with Ms. Davis, I heard unexpected stories from her. I was not expecting her to have a fantastic time she had in the 1960s, where there was a lot of racial tensions going on.
Hi y'all, my name is Tiffany. My group and I interviewed Ms. Davis and heard her stories of her youth and her as a hardworking mother. I was a little anxious when we began this interview, but Ms. Davis resulted to being quite talkative. I'm pleased to say that my peers and I have all been confident to be more open and to show Ms. Davis our devotions to hear her story.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carlos. Me personally, I'm more of a listener and responder than the talkative type. So I love listening to people on a personal level and hearing their stories. Admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about the full history of black folks in Ms. Davis's era. You can thank the school system that I grew up in. So I had a rather shallow view on how black folks really lived back then. Instead of prejudice, we heard tales of educational accomplishments and a very accomplished family. This is the story of Ms. Lillian June Davis.
My name is Lillian June Davis, but you can call me June or Miss Davis. My mother was Lillian. And now, starting with my beginning, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My mother read all the magazines from France, French Vogue, so-and-so. She was ahead of her time. And all the clothes we all had on, my mom made them. So she was a fantastic person. I'm one of 8 children. And there's only 2 of us left. Me and my baby brother are left. And my mom died when I was 20. I was finishing Northwestern University when my mother died, so I've been without my mother for 60 years. You know, but she was very, very strong person, very smart. She was the captain of her swim team and the captain of the track team. My sister and I were Tish and Tomb. That's another nickname I had. There were only a few other black girls that we found within a 4 or 5 block radius because we lived in a Jewish community and there weren't many black people there. So, yeah, and this is a high school I graduated from, but this also is a high school that my grandmother graduated from.
On every interview with her, I could hear the confidence in her speech, and every time she spoke of her mother and grandmother, her words are full of pride.
We lived in a Jewish community, and I also went to Hebrew school as a kid. all the Jewish kids would get on the bus and go to Hebrew school, so we had a rabbi living by us. So my mom said, she has nobody to play with, and her boyfriend is a blonde and blue-eyed Jewish boy.
Your mom's boyfriend?
My boyfriend! My boyfriend. I was 8 years old, he was 9 years old. Boyfriend, blonde and blue-eyed, so she asked the rabbi, he said, I can go, and I went to Hebrew school. My grandmother came to Pittsburgh when she was 2 months old from Alexandria, Virginia, where she was born. So I don't know anything about the South. My grandmother took me to the library at 2 years old. That's why I talk so much and read.
Did she teach you to read?
Oh, yeah. They said I was the youngest kid in the planet talking. So I had to talk.
Ms. Davis grew up with a single mom and 7 other siblings. Her father was an attorney and divorced her mother when she was at a young age, so she never had much of a relationship with her father.
He sent me money, finally, when I was graduating from high school at 15. He sent me money and came to show off with his friends. So I told him, you better get off the corner before Lillian comes out.
Is that your...
That's my mom. That was the final. All he had to do was show up and he'd be on the track team, okay? So my father was an attorney, first black attorney in the United States, but he passed for white, which I found out later. That's why I couldn't find him in the history books, because he wasn't going for black. So his mother was Indian and black, and she was a white Indian. And we didn't speak to her. We thought because of the divorce, but we didn't speak to her because she didn't speak English. We didn't know that as kids.
How old were you when they divorced?
10, 12, something. He didn't want to pay child support. He thought $7 a week was way too much for 5 kids. $7 a week. Come on, let's get off the sad stories. Anyway, next.
So, what was your first job?
Oh, I had a job when I was 9 years old, and I worked for Millionaire, and she was phenomenal. I learned how to go on the bus and the streetcar downtown at Pittsburgh to look at the microfiche.
What else did you do as a kid besides working?
I skied. I learned to ski right away. People say black folks don't ski. We ski at birth, okay? If you want to get down the hill, skiing. People make up stuff. You don't even know what they're talking about, you know? Downhill skiing. My mom bought us skis. They stayed in the corner. I think we had 2 pairs for 6 kids, you know.
How long did you stay in Pittsburgh?
Actually, what happened is I was in pharmacy school, and I was really too young to be in college. I was out of high school at 15, college 16. You don't know which end is up when you're 15. What are you doing in college? You know? Way too early. So I only stayed in college in Pittsburgh for 6 months. I went to Chicago and got in to a program that I had no plans of getting into. And I got into Northwestern University, just like that, at 17. Yeah, I trained at Northwestern University Medical School for 4 years in anatomy and cell biology, and then I took the American Society Clinical Pathology exams in cytology, in histology, and that's mostly what I did.
You were young for that. Did you have friends? Did you live in the dorms?
No, I didn't live in the dorms, but I had friends. I was in the downtown campus, and I had a very good friend. In fact, she was my best friend forever. And here she is at my wedding. Look at her dress. I stayed at her apartment because she lived downtown. She lived right near the university, so I got a chance to stay with her and hang out all the time. She had finished school in Vermont as a medical secretary. She was from Redgate, Vermont.
You lived in Chicago in the 60s.
That's right, for 14 years. It's where I met my husband.
How did you meet?
Well, I went to a party. There he is. I went to a party. He was a very tall guy, and there was only a few blacks on campus. I met this girl, Miss Rogie, sorry. She asked me if I could come to this party her sorority was having, so I would come. I went to that party, and my husband was there. He was talking, and he's a very nice guy. And I said, "Oh, would you hold my purse?" So he held my purse all night. So I could dance with the shorter guys. So that's how I met my husband.
Why didn't you dance with him?
He was so tall. He was 6'6". Yeah, I never even thought of it. I mean, you know, I'm sort of a math person, and it was like, I'm not a good dancer, so I'd be on the wrong foot patrol.
Was it important for you to marry an African American?
No, I never even thought about it. Yeah, I mean, if I go with a Jewish boy at 9 years old, blonde and blue-eyed, why would I care what color they were? As long as they had money to go to the movies and popcorn or whatever we needed. And we didn't pay. My sister was a ticket agent at the movies. All he had to do was have popcorn money for a dime. Yeah. So back in the 60s, lots of issues within race was going on. My husband went to the March on Washington when I was pregnant. He went, and so did my daughter's godparents. They went. But I just didn't get immersed in that. It's just that I'm number one. I don't multitask. I only do one thing at a time, and I do it very well because I focus. I can't spend energy on anything that was so negative.
Were you scared when your husband went to Washington?
No, I was never scared. My husband was a Christian, upright, do the right thing kind of person. I think he went down south once, but most people aren't scared. Most real black people aren't scared, and I don't know why they get us to be the angry, black, scared people. We're not. That's all wrong. We ain't scared of nobody. Don't even go there.
How old were you when you got married?
26. I had my wedding in my church in Chicago. This dress. This dress that I had a dressmaker create was like $800 and something, and that was a fortune. It would be thousands now, because 1 yard of that material was like $20-some a yard then. So I'm sure it's over 100 now.
Beautiful dress.
Yeah, and then the overskirt came off because I couldn't afford two dresses. So to party down, I had to swing off my cape.
What made you interested in your husband?
He kept coming around, bringing books and telling stories, and he was super nice.
How long were you married?
I was married 7 years. It would be 50-something if I was still with him. It was a perfect time to have a husband.
He helped you with the child?
Oh, yes. Everything. Yeah. Nothing is more important than your child. And that was the best.
How was it after you guys got divorced?
He lived in California. I don't know anything about him.
You didn't see him?
I wasn't looking for him. Yeah. He lives in San Francisco.
What about your daughter?
When she got older, she says that my husband is such an elegant man, I almost fainted. He has finesse, but you would love him because he knows how to treat each one of you as an individual and cater to your needs, you know. And he's just one of those people that's real aware of his environment of people, you know. He's the best doctor in the planet, but it didn't work for me.
What kind of doctor is he?
He's a surgeon.
Did you want to get remarried?
Not with a child. No, I'd never do that. Everybody's different. I don't want anyone around my child. I'm not a multitasker. I do one thing.
How was it like being a single mother?
It was fine. Yeah, I was busy with my work, with the church, volunteering. I'm not wrapped up in people. I never have been.
How old was your daughter when you divorced?
We got rid of them early on, so 5 years. He's a nice guy. And after he took care of babysitting and that kind of stuff, right? So I have no complaints about him, except he never paid child support.
Oh.
Who cares? I have plenty of money. But now I have no money. I'm penniless, but I don't need it. I'm old. And my daughter is okay. She knows so many words, and my daughter reads and writes 6 languages. She's a writer, bought a house in France, did her own negotiations, so I don't have to worry about her in the world.
When we were interviewing Ms. Davis, I was really fascinated by her personal stories of her husband and her child. Overall, I was more interested in her lines of work.
Okay, well, when I was in Chicago, one of my jobs was for Gillette. Oh, yeah. They would do the hair, perm the hair, do the set procedure, and then the microscopic work that was done on the animals and the processing. I was doing this slides and stuff like that to tell what the product had done to the lungs of the animals or whatever else. All the research was done. Cytology, yep, cytology, and that's the study of cells microscopically. I was fortunate enough to have a Chinese doctor who had went to Cornell. Well, I got a master's later on, but I have a degree for histology and cytology, and I'm board certified by the American Society of Clinical Pathology. So I did research for cancer. If you have something as big as a pinhead on a glass light, I have to sit and find that and concentrate on that without missing anything. That's why you could throw a party in here and I wouldn't hear you. Because if I'm looking in the microscope, I'm in the focus mode and I'm not going to make a mistake.
Were you originally in cancer research?
It's for, yeah, I could have taken many other things, but that was the main thing to cure cancer. And I had a picture of somebody drew a heart and I fill it in because it was stem cells research, because it was Nancy Reagan's big deal, and when I was in the university, the head of the medical school used to tease my husband as being his son. But that was a joke, because my husband is this big black guy, and he's just this little white guy. It's an inside joke. So he came around to listen to stem cell from Nancy.
How about when you moved to California?
I moved on to California, and I live here now, Marina Del Rey, 17 years. I didn't want my daughter to go to public school in Chicago. My daughter stayed on waiting lists for Francis Parker for 8 years at the private school in Chicago. And we were in California when she got accepted. And I had her in public school here, and she wound up going to private school here anyway.
When did you get the teaching job at UCLA?
Oh, way late. Yeah, way late.
Amazing, isn't it? Ms. Davis has worked jobs since she was a little girl in Pittsburgh, going on to work for Gillette in Chicago, then to researching and teaching at UCLA in California.
I taught at UCLA for 10 years. I had a laboratory in the gastroenterology department there at UCLA, and then I went to Pepperdine. I graduated in the first class in Malibu. That was fun. I just went to the reunion, now trees, where seeds were then. Now they're real trees and stuff, you know? So I was going to get a PhD in epidemiology at UCLA, but you see, I had cancer. I had a scholarship for $35,000. Everything was through. I had to take a graduate record exam, and I went in to get my medical. I had cancer. You would never believe it, you know? That's the last thing you expect. Me. I couldn't believe it. Psychologically, I was whooped. I couldn't take it. But I couldn't believe it. It was a breast cancer. Diagnosed October 11th is my 33rd year relieved from it.
It never came back?
Never came back. It's not coming back. Don't have time. I got things to do.
It was shocking to hear the cancer researcher having cancer herself. Luckily, being the tough cookie she is, Ms. Davis kicked it out of her system and it hasn't come back to haunt her since. Before all was said and done with our interview, Ms. Davis was kind enough to give us some advice for our future interactions as artists.
My mom taught us that from 2 years old, we learned from the Reader's Digest how to increase your word power. That's a must. That is a must. Everybody, I go to the library now and I do teaching in the free public library. I have the students learn 30 words a month. And so I find that that would be so much to your advantage just to spend a half an hour a day associating with something. Not necessarily art or sewing or painting or whatever, but something that gives you a better feel for your environment. The feel of things, you know? Learn 30 words every month. So if you think about it, if you want to enhance who you're talking to, if you're at a baseball game, you'd like to be talking baseball maybe, I think it just makes you more well-rounded. You don't need to know everything.
I had a great experience interviewing the lovely Ms. Davis. In the beginning of this interview, I was almost intimidated, which caused me to be quiet. However, hearing her stories, I got confident to ask her further questions, and I respected her even more.
It was hard to see some of myself in Ms. Davis, but regardless, I admired the stories she's told, and the advice given at the very end was very insightful and makes me admire Ms. Davis more than I already did.
After interviewing Ms. Davis, I was surprised and felt happy about the interview. I was expecting Ms. Davis to talk about the problem with the race conflict more in the 60s, but she talked about how she enjoyed her time in Chicago instead. I learned that I shouldn't assume too much what the interview will turn out to be because the interview took a lot of unexpected turns.
There's so much in a person's life and their stories, so different from each and every one of us. There is always more to a person's life than from what you see. Her ideas, her knowledge, and her stories opened my eyes. It was different from expected, but this experience will be an unforgettable time for me, and I cannot be grateful enough of Ms. Davis for sharing her story with us. Her cheerful spirit and enthusiasm really captured our attention, and we learned so much from her. Thank you, Ms. Davis, for taking your time out and sharing us your story, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Question.